I'm standing outside Claire and James House, which is one of the projects for Transform Leatherhead. The aim is to redevelop this building, including 35 residential units, a community space and a cafe.
So I think the first point to mention is that that site's in a really sustainable location, and as a result not every flat will have its own parking space. But we have provided an on-site car club space, and every resident will have access to membership of a car club scheme. It's also worth touching on the plans for disused tennis courts. So on the leisure centre site, we've put in plans for a temporary car park. So during the build process, we'll have to close the public car park, but there'll be additional car parking spaces.
People can use that.
Yeah, it's a little bit further, but it's only a few minutes additional walk. So we hope that's an acceptable compromise. But longer term, the pay and display car park in Bridge Street will be retained.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's really important to say that, you know, that the sustainable locations is part and parcel of the Mole Valley climate emergency that was declared last summer. You know, I think residents want to see that we are taking steps to try to address the climate emergency, and so encouraging people to use bicycles and not necessarily rely on their cars and use public transport is part of the larger vision that you know, we know that residents want.
And we want them to use the local high street.
Yes, exactly.
So it's just a few minutes walk up the road.
Yeah. Exercise as well.
Absolutely. Who needs to go to the gym?
The Riverside Park area is from Waterway Bridge all the way down to Thorncroft Manor.
Right.
And with the community space bit at the newly developed Claire and James House once it's done.
And there'll be a cafe there, won't there, as
There
well?
will be. There'll be a cafe on one side and a community space on the other side of the front of the building facing the river.
And if people want to see where the exact different locations are, where can they go to find that?
Just on our website, transformleatherhead.com.
Emma, can you sort of give us any more sort of information about what's actually going to go into the Riverside Park? Because there's been a lot of interest expressed about that.
Yes, it's one of our most exciting projects, I think. When the master plan was put together, it envisaged creating a bridge from the leisure centre side of the river towards Mansion House Gardens to sort of increase connectivity. Other ideas included a natural play area, a duck feeding area, opportunities for pond dipping, I think it's part of a primary school programme. At the moment we're not quite sure what the final design will be, but we're hoping to get money approved to take forward that detailed design to the next stage, and look forward to having a public consultation later on this year to sort of share ideas.
And who else will be involved in actually sort of coming up with the ideas as to what's going to go in? Because some people are worried about it being too manicured, other people want the wildlife encouraged.
It's really tricky to get the right balance between trying to create something that acts as a destination that people want to come to in its own right, and yet preserving everything that makes that part of the town centre so special. So we've identified a long list of possible stakeholders, too many to list here, but it's trying to get the balance between the Environment Agency, for example, Surrey County Council, through to all the different groups who use the water, so the canoeing club,
The Friends of the River Mole.
Exactly. So many special interest groups who've got a particular interest in conserving and preserving that part of the
Can I
town.
ask also, I mean, what's been looked at in terms of flooding and that area being a particular risk?
Yeah, so that question came up quite a lot when we first started looking at Claire House and James House. Natalie will remember. As part of the redevelopment of the site, we had to do a lot of detailed surveys to make sure that what we did was acceptable to the Environment Agency and also to Surrey County Council, looking at both the risk of flooding from the river and also the risk of surface water flooding. And I think there are a lot of opportunities actually in the way in which we approach the design of the wider Riverside Park to build in opportunities to mitigate the impact of flooding.
It could improve it.
Well, at least it will definitely not make it any worse, and the opportunities to help mitigate the risk as well. Careful choice of materials will be key to that.
Okay, so we're not envisaging any of the public footpaths to be closed.
That's right, but it's important just to flag that during the build process, in order to protect the public from the risk of the building works, we may need to ask to permit a temporary diversion, but we will do everything we can to keep disruption to an absolute minimum.
And it will be reinstated afterwards, obviously.
Absolutely, and as clearly signposted as we can.